What's up everyone? In this video we're going to be talking about awareness. And why am I talking about the A word, which is awareness? Because it comes at the very core of everything we do. In terms of growing emotionally, developing emotional intelligence, improving our relationships at work, our personal relationships, making better decisions, setting boundaries, being assertive, all of these things come down to one core element, which is awareness. And I want to really focus on self-awareness in this video. So the focus is I'm going to talk about awareness of your environment and also awareness of yourself. I'm going to talk about the relationships between thoughts, feelings, and actions, because that determines a lot about how we move through life and how we make decisions, and the role of awareness that has in your life and in different areas of your life. So essentially a single formula that I'm going to talk about that you can apply in your work relationships, your personal relationships, or whatever aspects of your life that you want to improve. And I'm going to finish with talking about the tools that you can use to help strengthen your self-awareness capability. So what is the value of awareness? Like, what's the point? Why should I even work on this thing that no one really talks about, right? You don't go in your day, go to work, and people are talking about being self-aware or conscious, really. It's something that's quite hidden, but it lies at the core of how we can improve our lives and ultimately live a fulfilled life. You see these big sports figures and everything who are in the limelight, they're in the spotlight, they've got all this attention on them. It helps to have some self-awareness, right? So that they don't do anything or say anything that's going to hurt their public image. That's an extreme example, but it really applies on our daily life when we go to work or when we see people. We want to be able to have a bit of an understanding of how we operate in those relationships and in our life, because by understanding it, you have a better opportunity to manage it in favor of what you want to do or what you want to achieve. So being aware of how you feel, the motivations you have, your desires or your dreams, those have conscious elements. So you might have a goal of buying a new car. That's a very conscious thing, right? It's very concrete, it's conscious. There's nothing really unconscious about that. But you have unconscious feelings and desires and motivations that lie under the surface that perhaps you're not aware of, but it is running the show. And it causes you to have these feelings that perhaps you can't explain. Like, have you ever felt yourself woke up one day and just lacked motivation? Or have you felt low, like you feel a bit off? You know, like you're kind of upset, but you're kind of feeling confused, but something's up, like you're feeling a bit off. You have off days. Why? Usually you don't know, you're just feeling a bit off, but there's something going on that's determining that feeling. So awareness, the value of it, helps you to build a better relationship with yourself, because by doing that, you'll be able to better understand how I can make decisions in different environments based on how I'm feeling that's going to serve me and not hurt me. So essentially, being aware is the antidote to self-sabotage. You can prevent it. And again, like I said, understanding your place in the world. So this is why it's such an important topic that I don't think gets talked about enough. And I want to focus on self-awareness. But before we get into self-awareness, I have to address thoughts, feelings, actions. The three are linked together. So usually you have a thought. The thought is, I'm not good enough at my job. And then you have a feeling. The feeling is probably like you feel inadequate. You feel low. You don't feel good about yourself, right? You feel insecure. It could be any of these things that come as a result of that thought. And what's the action? Well, you might think, well, look, I'm feeling low. I've got to do something about it. I've got to do more training at work so I can get better at that thing and feel better about myself. Or you might have the opposite reaction, which is, there's no point. I mean, what's the point? I'm already crap. I'm not going to do anything and nothing's going to change. So there is a strong relationship between what we think, what we feel, and how we behave. And Part of the work I do as a counselor is to help clients reframe and restructure their thinking because of the consequent impact it has on how they feel and how they behave. And they end up in the same situation they've been in many times, but simply by reframing their thinking, they're able to make a better, more constructive decision where they feel better about themselves and the other person or whoever it is feels better about the situation as well. So, understanding that relationship is important, and this is where self-awareness comes in. If you are aware of the impact a particular thought has on how you feel, you're going to be in a much better position to decide how you act compared to if you weren't aware, when all of these things is going to be running the show. And that's not exactly what you want. You want to be self-aware. You want to have an understanding of, in this situation, how do I want to behave? Well, if I know how I want to act, I need to know what feeling is going to help me to act in that way. And if I want to feel that certain way, well, I've got to change my thoughts, or I've got to reframe my thoughts. This all takes conscious effort. And this is where I think the difficulty lies for many people. The feelings that we have on a typical daily basis of thoughts, especially negative thoughts, man, they just seem automatic. They're just there, right? You feel off, you don't feel good about yourself, and you didn't think your way to it. It just kind of happened. You felt that way. But the whole point of awareness is you are consciously building that relationship with yourself to understand, where is that thought coming from? I mean, why am I feeling conflicted about this thing? If this thought, let's say it's a negative thought, if this is genuinely me, why am I conflicted? I should be happy. If this negative thought is genuinely about me, I should be happy about it, right? Because I'm expressing who I really am, but it's not the case. A lot of the thoughts we have been learned from our environment. And I don't want to go too much into this because this is a whole separate video in itself, but understanding the role that awareness plays in this dynamic is crucial. And this leads us on to the role of awareness in our lives. So the impact of self-awareness on our emotional intelligence. If we are aware of how we feel and how that feeling is going to result in us taking a certain action, then we'll be much better able to stop ourselves in that moment before we act on that feeling. So for example, it could be that your boss has yelled at you about doing a bad job. Now, this strikes up thoughts of, he doesn't know how hard I worked on this project. And that makes you angry. It makes you feel that there's been an injustice here. Like, wait a minute, this is not right. Well, if you are not aware, those feelings and thoughts can very easily carry you to the action of, let's say, storming into his office and telling him what you think. That's just one example. But if you're self-aware, you already know the impact of the thought and feeling on your body. You can feel it. And because you've developed that relationship with yourself, you can then stop and say, okay, I'm now aware I'm feeling angry. I'm aware this is happening again. Now I have a choice. I can either let the feelings overrun. I can really lean into my feelings and decide, you know what, I'm going to storm in there anyway. Or I know that by doing that, I'm going to sabotage myself and potentially my career. And as such, I'm going to take 5 minutes just to go for a coffee break. I'm going to go for a coffee break or go for a walk for 5 minutes just to give myself time and then come back and see how I feel. So you have made a conscious decision to prevent yourself from potentially being sabotaged or making a decision that's not going to serve you. That's just one example. But this is the power of self-awareness. It gives you control. That's what it is. It gives you control. And if you are self-aware in relationships, not only how you make the other person feel, but how other people make you feel in return, by being self-aware and knowing what's best for yourself, you can then establish boundaries. Because you can say, look, I know that in these situations or in these arguments, I feel a certain way, and that feeling makes me want to rebel even harder or push you away even more. And you are aware that this is not going to serve our relationship. So I ask that we don't talk about this thing anymore. Or if we're going to talk about it, we each come with an open heart and just openly hear each other out. So we each have a chance to express each other, because this is where my frustration is coming from. So again, self-awareness, the applications it has is, there's many applications it has in your life, and by building the relationship with yourself, you can then enhance the relationship you have with your environment and your external world. So how do we do this? There are so many ways. First of all, with counseling and psychotherapy, the process of self-awareness is built in to psychotherapy. So the mere fact that we speak with the client opens up about how they feel, the counselor holds that space for them and supports them. No matter how uncomfortable it might be for the client, the counselor will hold that space without any judgment. And that encourages the clients to open more. And that's why psychotherapy is so powerful, particularly for self-awareness, because it's kind of automatically happening, right? But you don't need psychotherapy to be self-aware, not at all. There are many different things that you can do. The first one is meditation. So the whole point of meditation is you focus on one thing, right? But all the while you're being aware of your environment. So a good example is, let's say you're trying to focus on one thing and you may have had a stressful day, you're trying to relax. So you're focusing on the sound of relaxing music. And then the thought pops in, oh God, I've got to clean the dishes soon. And then the point of meditation is not, that doesn't mean you failed, because thoughts automatically come in all the time. It's just how we're wired. The whole point of meditation is to say, okay, I acknowledge you. I know that there is a thought coming in. I'm just going to not pay attention to it and return back to the music. And, oh God, I've got to go out and do some grocery shopping. Okay, I hear you, but I'm going to finish this first. So again, return back and listen to the music. That's the point of meditation. You are refocusing your attention, and by building that muscle, it helps in the journey towards becoming more self-aware, because you focus on what matters most. You can also journal if you love to write. You can write down, if you might go through times where you have thoughts or feelings that are just so overwhelming, you can't get it out. Writing about it can be very helpful. And by writing about it, you then, it kind of starts to develop and you go more in-depth and in-depth. And then you read what you've written and you realize, blimey, like there's a lot more here than I thought there was, because you got it all out on paper. And again, that's a process of being self-aware. But what I'd say is the most important aspect of self-awareness is being curious. Open mind and curious. And embracing the negative feelings, particularly fear, because it's not an easy process. It comes with a lot of fear and uncertainty about, man, if I introspect, if I look into myself and ask myself these questions about why I'm feeling this way or why I'm thinking this way, I might not like the answers. Because it might be that it goes back to your past. It could be your past was very traumatic and that's very difficult to do. In which case, I would particularly encourage you to see a counselor and go to psychotherapy for that, to have that supportive space for you. But be curious. Don't judge yourself. The point of self-awareness is that you are learning more about yourself. If you judge yourself, you are interrupting that process, because you're going to think, this is stupid, what am I doing? And that process of awareness stops. And you're more likely to succumb to a future pattern of behavior that didn't help you. The point of self-awareness, you're not just doing it for fun. You're doing it so that you can make better, more informed decisions in the future that's going to serve you more in your life. You can only do that by raising your level of self-awareness. That's why it's absolutely crucial. And be open to feedback from others. Especially in your kind of personal relationships, they might be like, I notice whenever I bring this thing up, you just withdraw. What's that about? And just ask yourself, just even personally, what is that about? Why do I find that uncomfortable? Like, what's going on for me? And you've already begun that process of self-awareness. So I want to encourage you guys, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. If you have ideas for future videos, pop them in the comments. If you are not sure about anything I've spoken about, put it in the comments. This is the whole point of being open, being curious, and wanting to learn. I hope this video was helpful to you in terms of understanding and appreciating the role of awareness in our lives and how and why it's so important to be self-aware. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you got value from this video, please leave a like and subscribe. More videos will be coming very soon.